Hello, my dears. It's me, ordinary girl trying to be fabulous, and welcome to my channel. Welcome to my subscribers. Welcome to my new subscribers, and welcome to those of you who are not subscribed. If you are not subscribed and you enjoy my content, I hope you will consider doing so. And even if you don't enjoy my content, I hope you will consider subscribing because, hey, why not? This channel is fun. So today we are finally going to talk about Beautiful and Damned. And it took me forever to finish this book. And cause I read and it's only like 205 pages. And I've read books with, twice as many pages a lot faster, like in days versus months. But it's I finally finished it and we're going to talk about it. And we're not going to go chapter by chapter because if we did, there's a lot. So it would take quite a while to go chapter by chapter. So we are just going to talk about the characters and their major plot lines. And it's raining outside. It's so beautiful. Might even get a thunderstorm. Hopefully no tornadoes though. And I hope everybody is safe. I wish that we didn't get tornadoes at all, ever. Tornadoes are scary. I've only been in one real one, so yeah, I don't like them. So we're just gonna talk about the characters and their major plots. So let's see, I have the names of the characters written down. I do not have any notes because I was just gonna wing it. So yeah, let's talk about the characters and let's just wing it. Because I remember enough about the characters, I think, to just wing it. Still suffering from allergies. I got my allergy medication and sinus, and it's been helpful, but still a little stuffed up in there. And I really should turn on the fan, but the fan is too noisy because it's quite warm in here. I am not wearing blush. I am warm. Okay, so the characters in Beautiful and the Damned, we have Anthony Patch, and he is our protagonist. He is an orphan, basically. His parents died. He's being raised by his grandfather. He lives a life of idleness and dissipation. He gets an allowance from his grandfather and from his parents' estate. And so he, like I said, he lives a life of idle dissipation. He drinks a lot, he's like, well, I don't know, can a guy be a flapper? But yeah, he talks about writing a book, but he never writes the book. And then he talks about getting a job maybe, but he never gets a job because he would just rather not. He would just rather live off of the money that his grandfather gives him. And we'll get to his grandfather in a minute. And the funny thing is his name is Anthony, but for some reason I always want to call him Andrew. I wonder if Andrew was his father, and that's why. But I will look through there in a second. But anyways, Anthony thinks himself like really, really exceptional. He's just better than everyone else. Just his father's name, Andrew. Anthony. In 1913, Adam everybody's name begins with an A because Adam Patch marries Alicia, born him a son, and the boy Adam. Yeah, so there's two Adams. I don't know. I don't know where in my brain I got the name Andrew. But if I call Anthony Andrew, oops. So yeah, Anthony's the protagonist, and he's wealthy and he just doesn't care. So then there's Gloria Gilbert, and she is an only child. She is very spoiled. She's very pretty. She has young men fighting for her attention, and she thinks because she's young and beautiful that that affords her things that other people don't have the same privilege, and she's just madly in love with herself. I mean, a couple of the guys in the story are fighting over her, and I don't think that anybody could love Gloria more than Gloria loves Gloria, because Gloria thinks she is all that. So, she's very spoiled. She's like a jazz baby. She also is kind of the same. She's into fashion. She doesn't like it when she can't get the latest coat, and she has to wear a coat from last year. I know, imagine the horror of having to wear a coat that's a year old. Oh, the horror. And so she gets a lot of attention from the fellas, and she settles on Anthony. So together they start their wedded life, in idleness and dissipation, and she's very spoiled, and she doesn't even know how to boil an egg or make coffee, which would be interesting, because if I had to go back into the 1913s, I wouldn't know how to cook on their type of stove either. But and she thinks that's like her birthright. That's her birthright. She's beautiful. She deserves to be wealthy, and she should not have to live any other life. And the interesting thing is that Anthony Patch and Gloria Gilbert are modeled after F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife Zelda. But I do believe that F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote his daughter a letter and said that the only thing that was similar about Gloria and your mother is that they're both beautiful. I don't think that Zelda was as vulgar and entitled as Gloria. So then there's Adam Patch, and he is Anthony's grandfather, and he is Temperance League. He's very sober and vigilant, and he believes in hard work, and which is very, very interesting, because he funds Anthony's life. I don't know, he gets really upset when he makes a surprise visit to Anthony and Gloria and finds out that they're just kind of party people, and they are everything that he is not, and everything that he despises. And then but it's like, sir, do you know that's the monster you created? He is the way he is because you allowed him to be that way. You didn't make him get a job. You didn't, make him live a life of temperance. He is what you made him. Although, on top of that, you could say, well, he's an adult. Anthony's an adult. He can choose his own life and choose whether or not to live. But I think that a lot of our adult life is based on our upbringing. So, yeah. So, when Adam Patch walks in on a party that Anthony and Gloria are having, he is thoroughly disgusted, and he disinherits Anthony, and decides that when he dies, all of his money, I think he had 30 million, which I think I figured out before that 30 million in today's dollars would be in the billions. So yeah, he was very wealthy, and Anthony and Gloria were just looking forward to the day he died so that they could inherit all of that money. So he disinherits Anthony and leaves it to his secretary, Shuttleworth. We'll get to Shuttleworth in a minute. So we have Richard Caramel, who is Gloria's cousin, and he wrote a book called The Demon Lover that did very well. And then, his books later on are just mediocre. They're not as great. They don't do as well. Ooh. What's that? What's that, sugar? Annie does not like thunder. I'm surprised Livy Lou's not out here shaking like a little leaf, because Livy Lou doesn't like thunder either. I know, sweet baby girl. And we'll have to deal with that for a couple minutes because Annie thinks there's a big monster banging around outside. So he has a book that he wrote called Demon Lover, and it does very well. And then everything else afterwards is not as great. I think Richard Caramel could be a type of F. Scott Fitzgerald, because F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote a book that that did really well, and then he had trouble afterwards. Although, then he wrote this one, Beautiful and Damned, and then he wrote Great Gatsby. So, and I'm sure, well, maybe they all did well after he died. They didn't do as well before. And you have Maureen Noble, who is Anthony Patch's friend from college. Hey, baby, you don't like the thunder, do you, sweetheart? So you have Maureen Noble, who is Anthony's friend from college, and Maury doesn't really play much of a role in there, except that when he marries very well. He marries an heiress. Maury is probably not bad off himself, but he marries an heiress, and the heiress is wealthy, very wealthy in her own right, isn't she? She's very wealthy. So when Anthony experiences his fall from grace, Maury just doesn't care for him and doesn't acknowledge his existence, because there's a moment where Maury and his wife are getting in a car, a chauffeur-driven car, of course, because he's now very, very a man of consequence. So they get in the car, and Anthony tries to kind of chase after them, and he's like, I don't know who you are. And there's Joseph Blockman, who was a suitor of Gloria, who she obviously turned down for Anthony. He becomes a producer, and so he convinces Gloria, when they're kind of poor, he says that she should come and test to see if he can put her in a movie. So she comes and tests, and she tests for, because she's like, when they first knew each other, when she married Anthony, she was probably like 23 or 24. And oh, shushy. Can you hear her? She's growling. So she's like 23 or 24, so she's really young at that time. So as the years progress, and obviously age catches up to us, and they're kind of struggling for money, so she does go and test for a role as a 23-year-old. And Joseph sends her a letter and says, well, the movie studio, they didn't really think you could do the 23-year-old, but they think you could play like a 30-year-old widow, which is like, I imagine in 1922, that's like horrible. And it's funny because I laugh at Gloria being so upset at being told she could play a 30-year-old widow, that and then I remember at this time I was at the grocery store, and there was like this young girl, probably somewhere in her 20s, and she had like one of those clamshell packages of woofy woofy. She had like one of those clamshell packages of grape tomatoes, and as she was leaving, it popped open and spilled out all over the place because nowadays you have to buy grocery bags, and you've always had to buy grocery bags at Aldi. Really, sweet sugar? Livy not having any of this thunder either. But like the clamshell package of grape tomatoes pops open and falls and gets all over the floor. So she's like, "Can I go get another box?" And they tell her, "Yeah, go ahead." So she goes and gets another box, and then she leaves, but she leaves like all the grapes all over the grape tomatoes all over the floor. So this lady who's in front of me, she turns to me and she's like, young people, these young people, they're so irresponsible. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, do I look like I'm older than her? And I probably do. I probably look my age. I mean, I can't help it. Like I said, age doesn't stop for anyone. And if you're like younger, someday you're going to be older. And everybody gets older, and that's a good thing, cuz not everybody gets a chance to get older. So, yeah, why not? And I'm rambling. So then there's Dorothy Roycroft, because in the book you have World War I. And so Anthony joins the army. See, by this time I'm like just skipping through it because I'm just trying to get it finished. But Anthony joins the army and he goes to Georgia, and he misses Gloria. He misses Gloria. So he takes up with this Dorothy Roycroft, who's also called Dot. And like most guys, Dorothy, Dot, whatever you want to call her, is just someone who scratches his itch. He does not care for her in the least, because she's just like a side chick. And so the interesting thing about Dorothy Roycroft is at the end of the book, because there's a lawsuit for the fortune of Adam Patch, his grandfather. So somehow she knows he's in New York. She knows he's married. And so she tracks him down, and then she finds the article about the lawsuit for the fortune of Adam Patch. So she basically, I guess they posted his address or whatever. So she basically goes to find him and express her love for him. The interesting thing is that, like, you read that Anthony goes into a blind rage, and then it kind of cuts off there. And then Gloria has gone to the court proceedings, and she comes home and she finds a broken chair, because Anthony went into a blind rage. He did something with the chair, and you never know what happened to Dorothy, whether he killed her or if he hit her with the chair and maybe she stumbled off and died. They don't say what happened to Dorothy. But whatever happened to Dorothy, I'm pretty sure it wasn't a good thing. I mean, if she didn't die being hit with a chair, she probably like stumbled and died somewhere else, and they just thought, oh well, she's an interesting woman, so they didn't really follow up as to why this woman is like unconscious or dead on the sidewalk here. Excuse me. Allergies. They're bad. They're making my throat itch. So they mentioned the character of Mrs. Gilbert, who's very silly, a very silly woman. And she is kind of the reason, she kind of feeds into Gloria's vanity. Adam Patch fed into Anthony's vanity. Mrs. Gilbert feeds Gloria's vanity. And she's just a silly woman. She's just silly. Like, they don't mention Mr. Gilbert because he dies somewhere in like the middle of the book, but Mr. Gilbert and Mrs. Gilbert reminds me of, she's like having a fit over there because she doesn't like the thunder. But Mrs. Gilbert and Mr. Gilbert remind me of Edith and Archie Bunker. Just, like, Edith is silly and Archie's just a grumpy old man. So then you have Shuttleworth, who is Adam Patch's, the grandfather's, secretary. And originally, the money gets left to him. And Anthony takes him to court because he believes that he is the rightful inheritor of this fortune. And eventually, Anthony wins the case, wins the lawsuit, and he does inherit Adam Patch's fortune. But Shuttleworth is found dead in his hotel room. So, I wonder if Shuttleworth losing the case, if he deleted himself from the planet, or if someone deleted him from the planet, because it doesn't say. I mean, Anthony, by the time this happened, Anthony was quite, had fallen very far from grace. And when he found out that Joseph Blockman had said that Gloria could play an old woman, which, I know, like in 2024, 30 is not old. But in 1924, 30 was practically middle age. I'm sorry, that's the way it was. So when Joseph Blockman tells Gloria that she can play a 30-year-old widow, and she's like, tells Anthony this, he gets really angry and he goes and finds Joseph Blockman and he punches him out, or he tries to, and then he fights, but he's like falling down drunk because that has become his pastime, drinking copious amounts of alcohol until he's like blackout drunk. So he like gets punched in the face and he loses his tooth. And then that's also when he runs into Maury, who is getting in the car with his very wealthy wife, and he tries to get his attention, and Maury doesn't want to have anything to do with him because, like I said, he's fallen very far. His clothes are very worn and tattered, and his favorite thing is drinking all day, and he doesn't want to get a job because, he would rather just be poor. And so Shuttleworth is found dead in his hotel room. So, I mean, I tried, because I was like as I was reading the book, if I didn't understand something, I would read the Cliff Notes too, to see if they said anything. And they don't know what happened to Shuttleworth either. Like I said, whoever or whatever killed him made it look like he had deleted himself, when I think that he was deleted. Yes, and the reason why I don't mention that word that, I'm kind of skating around is because I don't want a YouTube community guideline strike. So that's why we're kind of skating around that word and that subject. So Gloria has friends, and they were not major characters, but they were minor characters, and they were also kind of like everyone else. She had one that was Muriel, and I believe Muriel was the really fast one. But then there was another one that I cannot remember her name, and I cannot find her name either. And she was very, very fast because her husband went off to fight in World War I too. And they were very explicit in saying that while her husband was away, she would entertain other soldiers. You know, got to keep up spirits, keep up that morale. And kind of skated around, and Anthony thought that Gloria was also entertaining other soldiers, but thankfully he, being enmeshed with Dorothy Raycroft, he didn't say anything about it or get mad at her because he was doing the same thing. Yep. So that's the characters, and that's the synopsis of Beautiful and Damned. And this book was on the banned book list, and that's why I had to read it. There's other books that are on the banned book list, like The Great Gatsby is on the banned book list, and I think we're going to read that one next, because I read The Great Gatsby, and I've seen the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and oh my goodness, her name was Carrie. And so, I liked that. My sister went with me to see The Great Gatsby, and she described it as 2 hours of her life she will never get back. So, you can't please everyone. I describe Beautiful and Damned as like 2 years of my life I will never get back. So, I can't wait to take this book to the little free library and hopefully bless someone else with it. So, with that, I am going to say goodbye, and I'm going to say thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to turn this fan on because it's getting really hot in here, and I will see you in the next video. Okay, thank you. Bye.